You might know Dennis Edwards as the iconic lead singer of The Temptations, but are you aware of the heartbreaking details surrounding his passing? His death sent shockwaves through the music world, but what came afterward was even more unsettling. Claims that his wife mistreated him before his death. Could Dennis Edwards have been a victim of elder abuse? New revelations from sources and documents have uncovered a shocking story about his life and passing, and his daughter has now confirmed these disturbing allegations. But before we dive into the rumors about Dennis Edwards' personal struggles and untimely death, let's take a moment to look back at Stevie's early life and the extraordinary career that paved the way for his legendary influence on the music industry. Early years and musical beginnings. Dennis Edwards was born in Fairfield, Alabama, a small town just 8 miles outside Birmingham, to Reverend Dennis Edwards Sr. and Odessa Fuller. From a very young age, he was immersed in music, starting to sing at just 2 years old in his father's church. It was here, in this sacred space, that his love for music began to take shape. At the age of 10, his family moved to Detroit, Michigan, a city known for its rich musical heritage. There, Edwards continued his musical journey, singing in his father's church and eventually becoming the choir director. During his teenage years, Edwards joined a gospel vocal group called the Mighty Clouds of Joy. This experience expanded his musical horizons and set him on a path of deeper learning. He studied piano and composition at the Detroit Conservatory of Music, further honing his skills. His inspiration came from Sam Cooke, a gospel singer who had made the bold move to secular music. Motivated by Cooke's success, Edwards decided to take a similar leap. Despite his mother's objections, who forbade him from listening to or singing secular music, he formed his own soul and jazz band in 1961, Dennis Edwards and the Firebirds, eager to dive into the world of secular music. That same year, Edwards recorded his first single for a small Detroit label, International Soulville Records. The song, titled I Didn't Have To, along with its B-side Johnny on the Spot, marked his first step into the music industry. But just as his career was gaining momentum, life took an unexpected turn. Edwards was drafted into the U.S. Army and served from January 1961 to December 1963. He spent much of his time stationed in Europe as a field artilleryman and rose to the rank of Specialist 4th Class while serving with Headquarters Battery, 2nd Howitzer Battalion, 35th Artillery, 7th Army. After completing his military service, Edwards returned to his passion for music. In 1966, he auditioned for the legendary Motown Records with the help of famed bassist James Jamerson. Though he was initially placed on retainer, it didn't take long for Edwards' talents to catch the attention of the Motown team. While he had dreams of pursuing a solo career, fate had other plans. When the Contours' lead singer Billy Gordon fell ill, Edwards was asked to fill in for him. While performing as the Contours' opening act for The Temptations, Edwards' powerful voice caught the attention of Eddie Kendricks and Otis Williams of The Temptations. They were considering replacing their lead singer, David Ruffin, who happened to be a close friend of Edwards. Little did he know, this encounter would soon lead him to one of the most significant chapters of his career, the Temptations era. In 1967, Dennis Edwards made a bold decision to leave the Contours, only to find himself back on retainer with Motown. He had been eagerly waiting for a new chapter in his career with Holland Dozier Holland, who had promised to sign him to their new label, Invictus Records. But just as he was looking forward to that opportunity, everything changed in June 1968. Edwards was unexpectedly drafted into The Temptations, who had recently parted ways with their lead singer, David Ruffin. Knowing that his departure was imminent, Ruffin had tipped Edwards off about the situation, which helped ease any guilt Edwards felt about stepping in for his friend. The revamped lineup of The Temptations made their first public appearance in July 1968 at the Forum in Los Angeles. The concert was divided into 2 parts. The first half was performed by the original members, while Edwards took the stage for the second half. His official debut as a member of the group came on July 9, 1968, during a performance in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. However, the debut wasn't without drama. Ruffin, determined to regain his spot, stormed the stage during Edwards's lead vocal on Ain't Too Proud to Beg, which led to an enthusiastic response from the crowd. This interference continued for a few weeks until, according to Edwards, the Temptations decided to let Ruffin go, offering him a solo deal with Motown and keeping Edwards in the group. The situation took another turn when Ruffin failed to show up for a performance in Gaithersburg, Maryland, forcing the Temptations to permanently retain Edwards. The group made it clear that they would no longer entertain the idea of bringing Ruffin back into the fold. Edwards's first album with the Temptations, Live at the Copa, was recorded during their triumphant return to the legendary Copacabana nightclub. This marked the beginning of a new era for the group, especially with their next studio album, Cloud 9. Produced by Norman Whitfield, this album marked a shift towards psychedelic soul. The title track became a huge success, reaching number 6 on the U.S. pop charts and earning the group a Grammy Award for Best Rhythm and Blues Group Performance, Vocal or Instrumental, in 1969. Cloud 9 was followed by a string of hits including I Can't Get Next to You, Ball of Confusion, Superstar, and the unforgettable Papa Was a Rollin' Stone. However, while recording Papa Was a Rollin' Stone, tension began to surface between Edwards and the group. The song's opening verse, which recounts the loss of a father, stirred personal emotions for Edwards. The lyrics, "It was the 3rd of September. That day I'll always remember, 'cause that was the day that my daddy died," hit too close to home for Edwards, who felt upset because his father had passed away on the 3rd of October, not September. Despite the disagreement, the single went on to become a major success, reaching number 5 on the R&B charts and winning 4 Grammy Awards in 1972. As the years passed, creative differences began to cause friction between the Temptations and their producer, Norman Whitfield. Many of the band members felt that Whitfield was focusing too much on the musical arrangements and not enough on showcasing their vocal talents. This tension became evident with the release of the song Masterpiece in 1973. In response to these ongoing issues, the Temptations decided to part ways with Whitfield and bring in a new producer, Jeffrey Bowen, for their 1975 album, A Song for You. This change led to the release of 2 number-1 R&B singles, Happy People in 1974 and Shaky Ground in 1975. Despite the success, Bowen's production style began to favor Edwards' lead vocals, sometimes overshadowing the other members of the group. According to Otis Williams, Bowen would often neglect to record background vocals or mix them at a much lower volume compared to Edwards' parts. Bowen even took Edwards aside during recording sessions and reportedly told him, "You don't need to be with them guys. I can cut you into things, Dennis. You could be bigger on your own." While Bowen denied any ill intentions, claiming that production delays were the real issue, the comment raised suspicions among the rest of the group. Around this time, Edwards's personal struggles began affecting his professional life. His increasing cocaine use led to missed rehearsals and meetings. In 1976, during the Temptations' transition from Motown to Atlantic Records, Otis Williams made the difficult decision to fire Edwards, citing what he called an intolerable attitude, attempted solo career and second stint with the Temptations. After his departure from the Temptations, Dennis Edwards found himself still tied to his Motown contract. Eager to forge his own path, he tried to pursue a solo career by negotiating with the label while also working on his solo album. Unfortunately, his hopes for a solo deal fell apart, and the album he had put so much effort into was ultimately shelved. This left Edwards at a professional crossroads, unsure of his next move. In the meantime, he took a job with his uncle's business in Cleveland, where he worked laying concrete driveways to make ends meet. In 1980, Edwards received a second chance when he rejoined the Temptations after his replacement, Louis Price, left the group. Otis Williams, the band's leader, made it clear that there would be no room for nonsense this time. With Edwards back in the group, the Temptations re-signed with Motown and released the album Power. The title track, which featured Edwards on lead vocals, became a moderate hit, peaking at number 11 on the R&B charts. However, it struggled to break into the top 40 on the pop charts, limiting its success. Motown, eager to capitalize on Edwards' return, organized a reunion album in 1982. This project also included original members David Ruffin and Eddie Kendricks, alongside the current lineup of the group. The much-anticipated reunion album was followed by a reunion tour that kicked off in March 1982, just before the album's release. The album featured Edwards prominently, with several tracks showcasing his powerful voice, while Ruffin contributed to one of the songs. As the tour progressed, Edwards reconnected with Ruffin, and the two began indulging in cocaine binges during their off time. Their renewed friendship, however, brought with it troubling behaviors. Edwards began arriving late to performances and appearing intoxicated, a result of late-night escapades. The tour, which lasted until mid-November and concluded at the Westbury Music Fair, made it clear that Edwards' personal struggles were beginning to interfere with his professional commitments. In 1983, the Temptations released another album, Surface Thrills, and participated in the televised special Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, Forever. During this special, Edwards faced off in a battle of the bands with Levi Stubbs, lead singer of the Four Tops. The segment, which featured the two singing hits from their respective groups, was a huge success, leading to a worldwide TNT tour that lasted 3 years. However, by the end of 1983, Edwards' struggles with his personal life began to take a toll on his professional responsibilities. He began missing shows and rehearsals, which ultimately led the Temptations to make the difficult decision to replace him with Ollie Woodson, solo career and third stint with the Temptations. In the spring of 1984, Motown breathed new life into Dennis Edwards' solo career with the release of Don't Look Any Further, a memorable duet with Siedah Garrett. The song quickly became a hit, reaching an impressive number 1, 2 on the R&B charts, while the album of the same name enjoyed success as well. It also produced other notable singles like You're My Aphrodisiac and Just Like You, which received significant airplay. When asked about the possibility of a second album in an interview with the New York Daily News, Edwards shared his desire to cover Otis Redding's iconic Try a Little Tenderness. He also expressed interest in collaborating with the legendary Aretha Franklin on a duet, which excited many of his fans. In 1985, Edwards released Coolin' Out, his follow-up album. The album included his version of Redding's classic song, along with the title track, which achieved moderate success. Despite the positive reception to his solo projects, Edwards struggled to maintain momentum in his career. During this time, Ron Tyson, a member of the Temptations, saw Edwards performing at a nightclub in Philadelphia and saw the potential for a reunion, though talks about Edwards rejoining the group ultimately didn't materialize. In 1987, tensions within the Temptations led to the firing of Ollie Woodson, who had frequently arrived late for performances. In an effort to stabilize the group, the Temptations decided to bring Edwards back for a third time. The result was the album Together Again, which included the hit I Wonder Who She's Seeing Now. This marked another chapter in Edwards' fluctuating career, but it also underscored the ongoing challenges within the group. Despite the success of the album and his return to the Temptations, Edwards left the group for a third and final time in 1989. He reunited with former bandmates David Ruffin and Eddie Kendricks, and together they embarked on new ventures. After Edwards left, Woodson was brought back to replace him in the group. That same year, Edwards was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of the Temptations, a significant recognition of his contributions to music. Ruffin, Kendricks, and Edwards. In 1989, Dennis Edwards, alongside fellow Temptations alumni David Ruffin and Eddie Kendricks, reunited to hit the road once more, marking a significant chapter in their storied careers. The trio, acknowledging their incredible legacy with the Temptations, adopted the name Former Leads of the Temptations to reflect both their past as key members of one of the most successful Motown acts and their intent to forge a new direction. Their distinctive voices, which had once blended seamlessly in the Temptations' iconic hits, came together once again to deliver electrifying performances that captivated audiences old and new. The chemistry between the three was undeniable, and their reunion quickly gained attention. This remarkable chapter in their careers piqued the interest of documentary filmmaker David Tucker, who saw an opportunity to document their journey. The result was the MTV documentary Original Leads of the Temptations, which offered a deep dive into their shared history, highlighting their personal and professional struggles, triumphs, and the enduring influence they had on the music world. By 1991, the trio was touring extensively across Europe, rekindling their legacy in front of eager crowds. Operating without a manager, the group was responsible for managing their own logistics, and the burden of handling financial matters often fell to Ruffin. His task included collecting concert proceeds from local promoters after each performance, an arrangement that, while necessary, created complications. The trio was working hard to maintain their place in the spotlight, but as the tour ended, a difficult situation arose. Ruffin, tasked with bringing home $40,000 in British travelers' checks, found himself carrying the money across state lines. Edwards and Kendricks, eager for the funds, urged Ruffin to transfer the money to them after he arrived in Philadelphia. Tragedy struck on June 1, 1991, when Ruffin tragically passed away from a fatal overdose at a crack house in Philadelphia. His death marked a devastating blow not only to his family, but also to the music world. He was pronounced dead later that day at a nearby hospital. The $40,000 in travelers' checks that Ruffin had been carrying at the time of his passing was never recovered, adding an additional layer of sorrow to an already painful situation. Ruffin's death left a void that would never truly be filled, and it marked the first of a series of heartbreaking losses for the trio. In October 1992, just over a year after Ruffin's death, Eddie Kendricks, another central figure in the Temptations' legacy, succumbed to lung cancer at the age of 52. Kendricks had been battling the disease for some time, but his death was still a shock to his family, friends, and fans. Before his untimely passing, Kendricks had been working closely with Edwards on a special project, a collaborative album that had great sentimental value to both men. One of the tracks from this project, titled Get It While It's Hot, was a dance or club anthem that reflected their shared passion for music. The track, recorded in 1990 at Frederick Knight's studio in Birmingham, Alabama, was produced by Alan Stewart and had the potential to revitalize their careers. Unfortunately, Kendricks did not live to see the project's full release, and his death further underscored the loss of two monumental figures in the world of Motown music. Did Dennis Edwards of the Temptations die from elder abuse? Dennis Edwards, the iconic Grammy-winning member of the Temptations, passed away in 2018 at the age of 74. The Detroit native died in Chicago, where he had been living in a luxury high-rise on Michigan Avenue. His wife publicly shared that he succumbed to complications from meningitis, a severe inflammation of the brain and spinal cord's protective membranes. However, shortly after his death, Chicago police spokeswoman Laura Amazaga clarified that the case was still under investigation. Edwards passed away on a Thursday at Rush University Medical Center, but the exact cause and manner of his death remained uncertain. While his wife attributed his passing to meningitis, the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office revealed that an autopsy had been conducted, and the investigation into the cause of death was ongoing. Further complicating the situation, an emergency protection order filed earlier that year accused Edwards' wife, Brenda Edwards, of neglect and abuse. The Healthcare Consortium of Illinois, which investigates elder abuse in the state, filed the order in January, claiming that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee had suffered mistreatment during his final months. Brenda, who was 60 at the time, strongly denied the allegations in a statement to the media. She said, "I loved Dennis, and we were married for 18 years. I would have never done anything to harm him. These allegations are false and defamatory and will be proven as such." Dennis had reportedly fallen ill in 2017, with meningitis being mentioned as a possible cause, although his daughter, Isa Pointer Stewart, who had power of attorney, stated that she never heard his doctors confirm the diagnosis. Throughout 2017, Edwards was frequently hospitalized, and in late 2017, his wife moved him from St. Louis to Chicago, where he resided in the upscale apartment building. During this time, Edwards underwent rehabilitation to wean him off a ventilator he had been dependent on for much of the year. Following his release from rehab, the situation took a darker turn. Adult Protective Services launched an investigation after Edwards himself reportedly made a complaint. A protection order was filed on January 12th against Brenda Edwards, citing claims of abuse. According to court records, the order included disturbing allegations, including that Brenda had tried to suffocate Edwards by pressing his face down on a bed and had deprived him of his hearing aids. The protection order also described Edwards as being bedbound and immobile, with a history of abuse. It demanded the return of his hearing aids, cell phone, and iPad. Brenda Edwards appeared at a scheduled hearing for the case, but the legal proceedings were complicated when Edwards passed away. The court clerk noted that if the individual named in the petition dies, the protection order would be nullified. Due to privacy laws regarding adult protective services, Bella Greer from the Healthcare Consortium refrained from commenting directly on the case. However, she confirmed her involvement in the protection order. The circumstances surrounding Edwards' death and the abuse allegations added an even more tragic layer to his passing, leaving many unanswered questions. The protection order revealed that Dennis Edwards had been removed from his home due to health-related concerns. During the unfolding of these events, Edwards' daughters, Denise Edwards and Isa Pointer Stewart, expressed their reluctance to speak about the troubling abuse allegations, citing the ongoing police investigation. Pointer Stewart, who was touring in Miami with the Pointer sisters at the time, shared the emotional toll this situation had taken on their family. She explained that she and her siblings had felt distanced from their father during his final months. As of now, the details for Dennis Edwards' funeral arrangements remain in the works, and they are being handled by Baucom's Precious Memories Services in Jamestown, Missouri. In Detroit, family members are working to organize a memorial service that will allow the community to honor the life of the beloved Motown legend. Edwards, who had moved from Alabama to Detroit at the age of 7, had deep roots in the city. Leon Fuller, Edwards' first cousin, voiced his frustration over being unable to contact Dennis. Fuller said that Brenda Edwards, Dennis's wife, wouldn't let me know where he was. He also expressed his confusion over the decision to move Dennis to Chicago, questioning, why would she move him to Chicago? Standing at an impressive 6 feet 4 inches, Edwards' towering presence matched his powerful voice. It's hard to imagine the once vibrant star being reduced to a helpless state in his final days. Fuller recalled receiving a call in January informing him that Dennis was in the hospital. I went over to see him. He smiled at me, Fuller remembered, adding, I hate the way he went out. Singer Betty Lavette, a close friend of Edwards, also expressed her disbelief. He told me he was ill, but he looked fine. I just can't imagine him ending up in this kind of situation, she said, still struggling to come to terms with his tragic decline. Pointer Stewart, too, reflected on her father with warmth. He was extremely funny. He gave me this incredible voice and this larger-than-life presence. Both my son and I have that, she shared. I hope we can give him what he deserves, she added, still holding on to the love and admiration she had for him. How do you remember Dennis Edwards and his contributions to music? Leave a comment below to discuss with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content about Dennis Edwards and his incredible legacy. Thank you and see you again. Goodbye.